На сцену приглашаются модератор Сергей Лебедев, генеральный секретарь СНГ.
Please welcome to the stage Moderator Sergey Lebedev, General Secretary of Commonwealth of Independent States.
Зарема Шаукенова, вице-президент Национальной академии наук Республики Казахстан.
Zarema Shaukenova, Vice-President of the National Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Kazakhstan.
Мадхав Налапат, почетный директор Департамента геополитики и международных отношений Академии высшего образования Манипала, Индия, онлайн.
Madhav Nalapat, Honorary Director of the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, India, online.
Елена Панина, директор Института международных политических и экономических стратегий Русстрат, председатель Московской конфедерации промышленников и предпринимателей, вице-президент Российского союза промышленников и предпринимателей.
Lena Panina, Director of the Institute for International Political and Economic Strategies, Russtrat.
Акрамжон Нейматов, первый заместитель директора Института стратегических и межрегиональных исследований при президенте Республики Узбекистан.
Krajon Nematov, First Deputy Director of the Institute for Strategic and Regional Studies under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan.
Сергей Афонцев, заместитель директора ММО имени Евгения Максимовича Примакова РАН, член-корреспондент РАН.
Sergey Afontsov, Deputy Director of Primakov Institute of World Economy and International Relations, corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
Артем Мальгин, проректор по развитию МГИМО МИД России.
Artyom Malgin, Vice-Rector for Strategic Development, MGIMO University.
Добрый день.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Today, in the framework of the 10th Primakov readings on the topic Russia in the global context, the aim of our session is to discuss the vectors of cooperation on the space of Big Eurasia, and I'm as a moderator, who is on the third time is moderator of this topic. With a big gratitude, I would like to say that the leadership of the MMO Institute gives a great platform to discuss such important topic. This topic is essential for me as a person who during almost 2 decades goes in for preserving the atmosphere of friendship and cooperation on the post-Soviet era. Now we are at such situation in our international relationships when we need greater consolidation. You can see it according to that events which we have now on the international platform and on the Eurasian space, because that policy of pressure and sanctions, which is expressed by the CIS countries and many representatives of Eurasian countries, it forced us to unite our efforts to stand against jointly to that policy which is destructive to our mind and which can lead only to negative consequences for these states against which such sanctions are imposed on and against sanctioners. You know that at which extent these sanctions failed. But today we are talking about Eurasia, and due to geopolitical position and its full reach of different resources, of course, it's at the first plan. The project of Big Eurasia, and also as this called Big Eurasian Partnership, was actively supported in 2015 by the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, in his speech to Federal Assembly to shape the wide contour on the Eurasian continent. this policy received a positive development. With a great pleasure, I would like to underline it and understanding that we need to deepen all multilateral partnerships in different areas on Eurasian continent where it is present today. And it leads to the fact that we have started to talk more often. We started to join our efforts. For example, Primakov readings is a rather solid platform which makes it input into the strengthening of cooperation on the Eurasian continent, and at least a better understanding of the problems which we are facing, and join common finding of solutions to solve these issues. On the present day, on the Eurasian continent, the most important projects is EAEU, the SCO, the ASEAN countries, BRICS countries, and other institutional organizations. And in this regard, I need to say that there is an evidence of such cooperation is developing is the meetings at high level, which are held in these months and which are upcoming and including in the territory of the Russian Federation. I will come a little bit later to the neighboring platform in Astana on 3rd, 4th July. There will be a SCO summit. Today, Yuri Shaukenova already told that in the middle of October there will be a BRICS summit in Kazan. On 8th of October in the Russian Federation there will be a summit of CIS. And me, as a participant of all these forums, and in the past and in the present time, I want to say that joining of our efforts, consolidation of partnership and cooperation almost everywhere is at the first place during discussions and meetings. But this is my sensitive topic, that's why I can talk a lot about it. But we have speakers today who also want to take a floor to talk on the topic how we should act to reach the aim of big Eurasian partnership development. The integration on this space is rather rational process, which facilitates the fact that the countries will interact with each other, have the beneficial advantages, fix their new contexts of partnerships. I would like to come to discussion of the main vectors, and I hope our discussion will be successful and fruitful and facilitates the cooperation on this Eurasian partnership. We have 8 speakers, we have 1.5 hours. Also, we can see our Indian friend in VTC mode, who also wants to talk a few words about big Eurasian partnership. So 90 minutes, 8 speakers. So dear friends, colleagues, I would like to limit yourself by 8-9 minutes to be in time, because after us there will be another session and we will have to give the floor to them. So, and the first I would like to give the floor to Zarema Shaukenova, to Vice President of the National Science Academy of Kazakhstan. It's a big scientist. She is specialist in sociology, and during many years she works with the social problems, joining of different ethnos on the Kazakhstan territory and post-Soviet territories as well. Eurasian space is combined by many ethnic nationalities, and this topic is very important. And we know by active participation of Zarema Shaukenova, we know in many integrational forms, we know that she is supporter of preserving the partnership on Eurasian space. She graduated from a big, great economic school in Leningrad city, and that's why I know her relation to Russian and to our neighbors, Kazakhstan. And of course, I need to say that our participants of the forum rather often they say that the center of Eurasia is in this country. I've heard a lot of times about this from our Kazakhstan partners. Of course, all Kazakhstan partners can say that the center of Eurasia is in Kazakhstan. Uzbekistan partners also trying to say that it is in Uzbekistan, and some Russian friends are saying that it's in the Ural area. I think the Chinese partners can also say the same. I would like to concentrate on the thinking that we are the center of such a big space. It means that these people are thinking about unification, about cooperation, interaction. That's why, please, I would like to give the floor to you. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon. I think here today everyone is a supporter of Eurasian integration because we are all the participants of the third session of the anniversary Primakov readings, and our esteemed moderator, as we know, is the head of executive committee of CIS countries since 2007 year, and almost the half from 33 years of its history is related to you, Sergey Nikolaevich. All these years you were working hard on creation of mechanism to harmony the relations on the CIS space, and exactly on the platform of Eurasian idea, the process of reintegration has been launched, and creation of EA-EU is one of the indicators of this process, as we know. Now we have CSTO, SCO, Silk Road, all what comprises today the security and safety model in our continent. And exactly that's why 2 years ago, making a speech on St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, the president of Kazakhstan, Mr. Tokayev, told that CIS can become the most suitable base to realize such meta project as Big Eurasia, and as it was told previously, and many support, and the president of Kazakhstan support this term, Big Eurasian Partnership. Along with this, SCO, ASEAN, Eurasian Economic Union can become the integral part of such Eurasian partnership, and in common decade such traditional friendly countries as China, India, states of the Middle East, South and Southeast Asia can become great big investors in economy of our region. But we need to say that successful integrational unions, if we are looking at them in historical context, they work as a magnet, as the power coming to the center of the original process. And in this regard, in current circumstances, the most prospective formats of cooperation in Eurasia can be considered as previous. They will be as previously rather magnetic. Every country will consider it specific and will be an example of integration. But at the same time, I would like to underline that this cooperation at the present moment should become multilateral, and it will be one of the quality steps in its realization. Multilateral partnership will allow to strengthen this cooperation and increase its resilience to the external factors, what is the most relevant today. If we are talking about some specific formats, today the most perspective in this context are those which provides countries of Eurasia with real sovereignty in key areas of economic cooperation. Multilateral tracks, they are in the framework of EAEU, strengthening of current economic ties, creation of new trade routes, the decreasing of barriers on the routes of movement for goods and services in the framework of One Belt One Route initiative of China. It's necessary to develop infrastructure to provide more effective trade between the countries of region.
The combination of various formats is also an important factor. It's both European Eurasian Economic Union, it's the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement, the Silk Road, and many other formats. In the framework of the Eurasian space, it's a very powerful effect of energy. Two aspects to mention. At the previous panel of BRICS, it was already mentioned, and it's about the coordination of scientific research and technological projects that would contribute to the acceleration of the technological progress. And besides, the other aspect has to do with the ways to strengthen the cooperation, educational projects, cultural projects which contribute to the harmonization of educational standards, cultural exchanges, and certainly strengthening the mutual understanding between the peoples, between the nations. The mutual understanding is a key word here. Speaking of the SCO, it's a very important organization, and its role in the contemporary world and its prospects in the context of shaping the new world order is growing. At the beginning of its establishment and 5 years later, some respected distinguished experts referred to the SCO as one of the most contradictory organizations of the world. They referred to it as the geopolitical myth. It was not a military alliance, it's not a political alliance, it's not even a political organization in its traditional meaning. But today, we see that 30 years later, the SCO is playing a key role in ensuring the security and political stability in Eurasia. Everybody knows that since last year until June this year, there was the presidency of Kazakhstan, and we held more than 100 events. Tourist energy fora were held. Kazakhstan spoke in favor of the upgrading the SCO under the new geopolitical conditions, and we favor its institutionalization. And Alexei put it, very soon heads of the countries will visit Astana to attend the summit. We already compiled a package of more than 20 documents to consider them, and the Astana summit will be held under the slogan of strengthening the dialogue, peace and development. I'm grateful to you that you stressed my personal attitude to that. Many speakers start their presentation at this forum explaining why they are here, and I'll explain already why I am here. Because we have the social sciences guru, who is Mr. Tashenko. He is quite an old man, but we are grateful to him that he attends our venues, our fora. And he once told me, Zarema, I'm confident in you, and I'm confident in Sergey. Sergey is my husband. We both are the members of the National Academy of Sciences, and I'm confident about you because your husband graduated from the Moscow University. I graduated from Leningrad and St. Petersburg University. But it's very important to ensure the smooth and seamless transition from one generation to another. And we are here to share our experience and to extend the bridge of friendship, which is very important. And perhaps that's the reason that prior to the SCO summit meeting, the youth summit meeting is taking place. Speaking of the SCO, I'm also certain that it has unique capabilities having to do with the strategy development plan until 2035. And there is quite promising opportunities for the development of the organization. And we understand that it ceases to be only the interregional body, so there are some risks. And I can refer to one of the interviews of Evgeny Primakov of 2007, and he said that the establishment of the SCO is the establishment of very serious organization, and he stressed that the role of non-military alliances is growing to promote foreign policy configurations involving various countries, sometimes very influential countries. And the SCO is exactly one of the organizations. Today we speak a lot of new challenges and risks, and they are associated both with the geopolitical tension and bloc rivalry and the change of generations. And still, there are always opportunities to leverage all those risks. And I keep on saying that the infrastructure, the technological cooperation are very important, but the cultural exchanges, educational exchanges are also extremely important. And that's the mission that we're going to perform. In conclusion, I would like to say that we can all take different approaches to the theoretical model of the Eurasian development. But I think we need to recall the year of 1998 when decision number 25 of Republic of Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and the Russian Federation the statement was taken about 10 steps to meet people's aspirations halfway, and still it is referred to as a constitution of the Eurasian Economic Union. So both the SCO and other organizations should generate new concepts to involve more states, observers, members, and what is most important to the peoples. Thank you very much, Zarema, and dear colleagues, friends, with all my love to this Commonwealth of independent states, I think still the pillars of international partnership is the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement Organization and BRICS. The CIS is strengthening its cooperation with the above associations. I keep on in touch with the Secretary General of the SCO, and we will meet in Astana soon. And both associations have China and India as member states. So with us there is our Indian friend, Mr. Madhab Nalabat, who is the director of the Department of the Geopolitics and International Relations. He is a patriot of India. I really read some of his works, and I would like to turn your attention to the fact that he is struggling for the equality in relations. I can quote, world requires exhaustive definition of the human rights. We should include the rights for medical aid, healthcare, equal access to markets, mutual respect, right for environmental protections, and the right of every nation to be represented respectively in the international on the international arena. Is he visible? Okay, I can see on the screen, on the monitor. So I would like to turn the floor to Mr. Madhab Nalabat.
Пожалуйста, у кого есть наушники, включайте на английском языке, да.
Thank you, Excellency, for having invited me to speak. It's a great honor to be speaking at the Primakov Dialogues. Evgeny Primakov was the Prime Minister of Russia during a very consequential year, 1998-99. And that was still a period in which the Russian Federation, was looking more, if I may say so, at Europe rather than Asia, and possibly even Eurasia, where its geopolitical anchor was concerned. But of course, that changed in a few years' time once President Putin took office. I would like to say that in India, we have amazing, an astonishing amount of respect for the Russian people. And I think a lot of that respect is basically rooted in what we saw in the Great Patriotic War against the Nazis. It is the reality that it was the Soviet forces that broke the back of the Nazi Wehrmacht until then were unconquered throughout the continent of Europe. That is a fact. And the bravery, the sufferings, the sacrifice of not only the soldiers, but the Soviet people is something unparalleled in human history. At least, I would say, for the past several generations, unparalleled. That is the foundation. The respect for the people is the foundation, the respect for what they achieved in the face of great adversity, respect for their qualities, their human qualities, is, I think, that the foundation of the warm friendship between the Indian and Russian people and between my country, India, and Russia. Evgeny Primakov was a visionary. As I said, 1998-99 was still a period when the Russian Federation was looking to its west, towards the entire continent of Europe, rather than in a way concentrating on the east. And whereas Primakov understood the importance of Eurasia, he understood the future rise of Eurasia, and he placed great emphasis on Eurasia. And apart from Russia, which of course remained a great power even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, it is among the great powers of the world. He focused on India, my country, and China. So he focused on Russia, India, and China, three great powers of the four great powers, the fourth being the United States. And this showed his early, very, if I may say so, prescient knowledge of the fact of the rising importance of Asia, and specifically of the importance of the two other Asian countries whom Primakov specifically named in one of his very fascinating theories of this triumvirate of Russia, India, and China. I'd like to say that as far as India is concerned, we have been a friend of Russia consistently since the 1950s. Since the 1950s, we have not for 1 month stopped being a friend of Russia. And if I may say so, the Soviet Union at that point in time stood by India during very difficult times when India was seeking to, together with the help of the Mukti Bahini of Bangladesh, seeking to ensure an end to the genocide in Bangladesh. At that point in time, two great powers, one in Asia, one in North America, stood solidly behind the Pakistan, which was essentially promoting that particular situation in Bangladesh. But one great power stood by India, resolutely by India, completely by India, so much so that efforts at nuclear blackmail, for example, by having a carrier task force, a nuclear carrier task force, sail towards the Bay of Bengal, or having forces on the land suddenly amass. Well, during that time, India was basically, there was one major power standing by India, and we will never forget that. That major power was the Soviet Union, of which the successor state is the Russian Federation. I'd like to say that it's not been one-way traffic, if I may say so. Of course, we stood by Russia all through the 1950s, when it was not fashionable to stand by Russia, when we were making a lot of very powerful countries unhappy to stand by Russia, when frankly our economic interests were not being helped, if I may say so, to put it mildly, by standing completely behind Russia. In fact, history will show that during that period, any country that stood with the United States, most of those countries did much better economically than countries that refused to stand along with the United States, where its approach towards the Soviet Union and now the Russian Federation was concerned. We did a rupee-ruble deal in which, after the Soviet Union was changed into the Russian Federation, we exchanged rubles at an exchange rate that was completely unrelated to the market price of rubles, which at that time was astonishingly low. Several countries completely wrote off their ruble debt. Other countries, I think they tried to pay in the ruble value of the current market, which was very low. But we said, no, we are not going to treat our Russian friends like this. And we signed a rupee-ruble trade deal, which at that point in time, I'm talking about the early 1990s, was worth $12 billion US. That's a huge amount of money back then, and it's a substantial amount of money back even now. Again, in 2022, when there was the Russia and Ukraine began a conflict, there was an intense pressure on Prime Minister Modi, on the government of India, on, if I may say so, friendly pressure. I'm not going to use any word pressure except in a sense of friendly pressure, because they were exerted by our friends in North America and Europe, but very strong pressure for us to stand with them against Russia. I am proud to say that whether it's the Prime Minister, whether it's the government of India, whether it is the civil society and people of India, that advice was politely refused. And we continue to be friendly to Russia despite what started on 24 February 2022, and despite the friendly pressure from several countries for us to change our attitude to Russia. I'd like to again say that just briefly that my Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, and Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin a very strong relationship. And I'd like to say that there is no Eurasia without Russia, or without India, or without the Central Asian republics, or without China, or any other countries represented here. And we are very, very clear that we would like to see a flourishing Eurasia, a Eurasia in which each country respects the other's borders, each country avoids the use of force, and where you can have connectivity wherever possible. Sometimes it may be bilateral, sometimes plurilateral. Wherever possible, have rail, road, sea, and air connectivities. I am convinced that India will be part of a network of connectivity through our friends in Central Asia, through our friends in Iran, and with Russia, apart from the sea corridor that's planned from Chennai and Vladivostok. And I'm quite convinced that the future of Eurasia is bright, and the future of the good relationship that is now existing between India and almost all the countries in Eurasia will continue to strengthen and grow, and we in India welcome that. We are strong believers in a strong Eurasia. Thank you. God bless the people of Eurasia. God bless Russia. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Nalap.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nalap. On our part, I would like to wish peace, prosperity, and unity to India, and we are deeply convinced that the recent victory by Mr. Modi's party at the elections would be a guarantor to the fact that India will continue its course for the cooperation with its neighbors in Eurasia. All every success to you once again. Dear colleagues, I can see that we are lagging behind the schedule. Everybody has a lot to say. So we have another partner from China, Mr. Xi Jinping, a young researcher from the Institute of World Economics and Social Sciences. He is our guest today, and I don't think I have to explain how important the role of China is in Eurasia. All CIS countries, and as Secretary General of the CIS, all countries are fully involved in the implementation of One Belt, One Road project. China is a superpower, a great power, and we are waiting for the view from Beijing how we can keep and strengthen the Eurasian integration.
Thank you, Your Excellency, General Secretary, dear friends and colleagues, good afternoon, and many thanks to the organizer, IMEMO, for inviting me to attend this very important and influential event, Primakov readings, to exchange ideas for better mutual understanding. And it's really my honor to be here. I'm from the Institute of World Economics and Politics at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. And my interests mainly focused on the series of international relations, globalization, and global governance. And in this session, the topic is about Greater Eurasia. Here, I'd like to say something about the relations between globalization and regional cooperation at first. In the past decade, the globalization was the main trend of the world, and many countries and regions achieved a lot in the process of globalization. At the same time, the regional cooperation played a very important role to promote regional regionalization and globalization. And the main goal of cooperation in many regions is to enhance capabilities and create opportunities for regional members to better engage in the globalization and share the outcomes of globalization. So I call this phenomenon is globalization-led regionalism. During that time, after the financial crisis in 2008, especially in recent years, the wave of anti-globalization or deglobalization prevailed in the world, especially in Western countries. The pace of globalization slowed down because globalization didn't benefit all countries in the world and all people within our country. To strengthen cooperation is the pragmatic choice, and regional cooperation can create momentum for globalization, which means today's globalization is a kind of regionalism-driven globalization. This great shift reminds us of attaching great significance to deepen regional cooperation. So the Eurasian regional cooperation is significant very much to input strong driving force and create more opportunity to regional development and globalization. As mentioned in the meeting agenda, the Greater Eurasia has the potential to become the assembly point of a new global order, considering the obvious economic complementarity between Europe and Asian countries. The Greater Eurasian region can be the most important driver in the world to promote the economic stability, resilience, and the development of the region and the world as well. So I'd like to add 3 points about Greater Eurasian interaction. I think the Greater Eurasian cooperation should at least has 3 characteristics. The first one is compatible cooperation. Eurasian cooperation needs to be compatible to globalization. Through Greater Eurasian cooperation, each regional member will have more opportunity and low barriers to participate in international division of labor and enjoy the outcomes of globalization. The second one is practical cooperation. The region now is facing many concrete challenges, especially in the field of development and security. So the Greater Eurasian cooperation needs to be problem-oriented and to give responses to real problems and challenges in this region. The last one is open cooperation. The Greater Eurasian cooperation needs to engage with all parts who are benefit to tighten the regional ties and promote regional development. Just as the BRICS Plus mentioned this morning, the Eurasia Plus would be also an important way to strengthen the assembly point of our new global order. And that's what I'm thinking about this topic. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for your speech. We are now actively strengthening our cooperation of CIS countries with the Chinese People's Republic. And a bright example is the last visit of CIS countries' leaders to Beijing, and the most important, it was successful, very good talks with the leadership of China. Their work included some agreements, as in bilateral format and in multilateral format too. I'm talking about the visits of the Russian Federation President to Beijing and the President of Belarus Republic, the President of Uzbekistan Republic. I think I can name all the leaders of CIS countries who are now strengthening their ties with China. And now, dear colleagues, I would like to give the floor to Elena Panina, the Director of Institute for International Politics and Economic Strategies. 5 times she was a member of State Duma of the Russian Federation and was very active and inter-parliament interaction and in CIS format and between parliamentaries with far abroad countries. It's a big experience and expertise, and as a member of many inter-parliament meetings, I can say that it's a very important tool to strengthen friendship and cooperation between countries of Eurasian continent. So, Elena Vladimirovna, the floor is yours. Thanks a lot, Sergey Nikolaevich. Nevertheless, I would talk not about the parliament ties, but about other aspects, despite the fact that parliament issue is very important. We need to understand that this huge civilization project, big Eurasian partnership, is in high demand today in the present geopolitical environment. We understand that those principles which are stated by our president in 2016 at his speech in St. Petersburg Economic Forum, and before it was this speech at Federal Assembly. It was like a principles of this Eurasian partnership, the organization of unified partnership on the equitable basis and rights. These are non-interference from the external factors. There is different ways of cooperation and economic and humanitarian as well. These principles today are in such high demand by the world majority, by countries who today, I think nobody has a doubt that norms and principles which are mentioned by, for example, the United States and other Western countries for the present day, they are not admitted by the majority of the world, the biggest part of countries, due to their unacceptability of factors, because they create some rules in international law and so on. In many countries of the world, they do not approve and adopt it. You can see sanctions, the destabilization of the global ties, the sanctions, it's like a norm for the Western countries led by the United States. Under different sanctions, today there are more than 40 countries of the world. Just imagine, every fifth country of the world is under sanctions. And I'm not talking about the sanctions which were imposed on physical personalities, some companies. So instead of normal life, instead of normal interaction. There are permanent sanctions, restrictions, influence, mostly done to have some economic and political benefits through such political dictate. And now we're talking about big Eurasian partnership. There are a lot of formats there. They've already been counted, and SCO and BRICS and ASEAN and CSTO and EAEU and big project One Belt, One Road. Everything is very important. But we need to move, and of course we want for it to be faster, but it couldn't be faster. We need to move to create new, more specific ways, approaches of interaction of these multiple platforms in unified project, big Eurasian partnership. Let's have a look. One such kind of moment can be like this. For example, we can see the breakout Brandenburg-Jamaica monetary system. We can see how many measures are undertaken now. For example, as today not reliable is preserving state reserves in US dollars, and all this leads to the fact that many countries with the decreasing of the US dollar dependent area, now about more than half world trade now is done in US dollars. So more and more countries start to make their payments in national currencies. And now here are difficulties. You can remember our recent difficulties with India, for example, because when we trade in national currencies, not often it is enough to have equivalent in bilateral trade currencies to have mutual exchange. I think there is very good experience when it was a time of Soviet Union. It was transferable ruble, which allowed to have clean calculations not only between two countries but between many countries. And in the framework of big Eurasian partnership, there are so many opportunities. If, for example, India do not have some kind of goods, but China or some other country has these goods, which can give it to them, for example, for supplied energy resources or another services, then in such kind of financial cooperation through the clearing calculations and some transferable currency. I don't say that we need to print some new currency. Of course, we don't need to create something like US dollar or European euro currency. But through the clearing mechanism or tool, we can do it. But now, talking about such pragmatic thing as finances, I would like to mention a few words about humanitarian sector of this cooperation. When there is no understanding, when there is no information, it's very difficult to build an effective and fruitful cooperation, either at the level of between countries or between some business structures. That's why I believe we need to have humanitarian dialogue. And for me, as a person who was all the life connected with the real economic sector, I understand rather good what is the sense of this humanitarian dialogue. Very specific things, such as we need to improve the widening in informational sphere, the exchange of mass media technologies, the fighting against destructive content. This content now is used a lot to tune some nation against other, to give some non-true information to another nation. And for many speakers who say that Russia is a great friend for them, for example, as our Indian counterpart told, despite the 24th of February of 2022, Russia and Ukraine has started this conflict, he told. But this means they have a big lack of information, because here in our country today we clearly understand who started this conflict, why it's happened, and that's why I believe that it's very necessary to support this informational content for the truth about geopolitics, about the situation in Ukraine, to become open and obvious for many countries and for all people who are in our Eurasian partnership space. Of course, the joint model is very important. We need to have expert society to communicate in such a way, not to be in a rush of some globalization project which was drafted by the United States, but we need to work on our own vision of multipolar world, of our own model, and which place the countries will take there. Of course, we need to increase the education, the science contacts, to create some platforms and very prestigious awards in the framework of our Eurasian partnership. We need science contacts, we need some documentary contacts. Can you remember previously, in the previous years, how many contacts we have about, for example, in the art, the movies? You can remember how many movies during the Soviet Union we were watching movies from India. And joining our assets and resources like this, we can define the new image of a new reality, which is brought by 21st century. Nobody, and even the collective West, can have a monopoly for the future, for defining the rules of the world order and the limits of the human identity. We can and we need to do it by ourselves, and should be based on the international law and be adopted on the basis of international consensus, considering all the interests and outcome for the mutually admitted decisions. In this context, big Eurasian partnership is aimed on to reach this aim, and we will develop it. Thanks a lot, dear friends. The PhD in economics. Of course, for sure, first of all, she is very interested in the issues of economic cooperation. And here, today, it is Mr. Afonsov, who is not for the first time here in our Primakov readings, and he's talking about the problem of Eurasian partnership. And for sure, I need to thank the leadership of the IMEMO for that work which has been done for the promoting of Eurasian partnership, for interaction in the space of CIS, which we use in our practical work. This
Sergey has a bigger picture. I read his works, and he knows the view on the Eurasian integration in a global context. So, Sergey, I'm not going to take your time, so please share your ideas with us, the position of the MMO Institute. Thank you very much, Sergey Nikolaevich, and thank you, dear colleagues, for the opportunity to speak here today. In my talk, I would like to formulate my vision of the Greater Eurasian Partnership in the way it is seen by economists of the present time, the economists who are interested to make the word cooperation, despite all issues, which has been rising around Russia in the past decade, so that the word cooperation could be the key word in the description of economic cooperation. For me, the Greater Eurasian Partnership means an opportunity for harmonic cooperation of the national economies of sovereign countries. From here, the key notion is the national interests and sovereign countries. Unfortunately, over the past decade, there was a great shortage of national interests and the shortage of full-fledged sovereignty. More and more countries which are formally independent are implementing anyone's interest except for their own and are functioning just to support sovereignty of other countries but their own. And in this respect, the situation we have been observing in the eastern and southern parts of the Eurasian space gives us a hope that the trend is not dominating and the trend has no chances for victory. If you cast a look from inside Russia, then the Greater Eurasian space can be represented as 5 big blocks. First, Eastern, Southern, and Southeastern Asia. There are no special problems with national interests and sovereignties, except for certain cases. But there's a lot of countries who has been pursuing their own interests in the economy. The most vivid illustration is India. And while drafting our documents on cooperation, it was always stipulated that we had to expand ties with India, where they have great demand for hydrocarbons, oil in the first place. I recall a GREF program, but for 20 years we've been told that India is situated far away. You cannot lay a pipeline across the Himalayan mountains. It's impossible to cooperate with India in energy sector. What we saw in 2022, at some point it will be recorded in the textbooks on economics and shows the possibility of the speed with which the situation can be changed within months. For half a year, India became the key partner in energy trade. What was the reason for that? Because there was the harmonic coordination of national interests on either side. The moment the coordination is established, all things become possible. Bloc 2, Eurasian Economic Union, Central Asia, and the Transcaucasus. Again, except for certain cases, we see countries who pursue their own national interests and who, in most complex crisis situations, they implement their own economic ends. It's not only about sanctions. Azerbaijan, of course, it's next to us, and Uzbekistan is a classic example. The year of 2020, the pandemic, all countries are in a crisis. Uzbekistan was one of the countries showing the positive rates of growth, 2%. Why? Because they pursued the efficient and effective economic policy. They didn't follow the mainstream trends, and they didn't follow the recipe of the international organizations. They just made a very sober and fair analysis of the economic situation. So 2% growth in 2020, 6% last year. That's the result of following the national interests. Next block of countries, the Middle East. And it has much more issues and problems. We can look at them broadly and in a narrow context, but they do have a lot of problems. But they result from the interference of foreign factors. We can recall the crisis in Syria, and we should not forget that the occupation forces of the USA are stationed in the territory of Syria, who support the anti-government regime in 1/3 of the territory of the country, and who are in control of the energy resources of the countries. For what reason? We talk a lot about the international law, but can you find any provision in the international law which would allow the United States to occupy that part of Syria? So this is one of the issues, and I would revisit that at the end of the presentation, but that affects the interests of the entire region. But there are some regional powers who pursue their national interests. They are Turkey, Iran, and from some point, Egypt is also a Eurasian power, because part of Egypt is a nation. And finally, it depends on the classification. That's the space that stretches from the western border of Belarus. We have a lot of problems there. There are some countries who act in the interests of their own countries, and some of the leaders of which are assassinated. But they didn't forget about national interests. When the leadership of some German foundations came to Russia, when we had ties with them, they began talking some rubbish, and I asked them, what is your vision of the national interests of Germany? They came to a stop, and they just said that we share European values. I told them that I'm not asking about the European values, I'm asking about the national interests of Germany. And we can see the result, we can see the outcome. In 2022, the EU countries grew by 3.4%. Last year, the growth was only 0.5%. This is the factor that results in ignoring their national interests. And last year, they had a record high bankruptcy rate year. That's the direct outcome of the policy which ignores the national interests. By the way, GDP of the USA in 2022 grew by 2%, and last year 2.5%. So that's the difference. The Americans get geopolitical benefits and make money. And who pays? The EU. That's the case. What does it mean? It means that it's important not only to implement our own national interests, but also see to it that third parties, non-regional countries, wouldn't interfere. I'm talking about the only country, and I know that in order to to puzzle U.S. experts is to mention national interests of other countries. They believe that the national interests belong to only one country, and that is the United States. So that's about the Middle East. And then again, if we speak of the prospects of the growth of the region, great cultural, economic potential, but what's the problem? The problem is the rules-based order. Discussions, three questions are often asked. Who drafted the rules? Where you can read them and name at least one rule. In St. Petersburg a month ago, one Arab counterpart said that rule number one, that Israel has a right to kill as many Arabic children as they want. It's not my words. Just one telephone call from Washington, D.C. would have stopped that. And we cannot expect that the interference of the United States in this region would be constructive, and we should be able to build our own prosperity without any interference. And I hope that we will do our best to implement that priority. Very good conclusion, I would say. Thank you, Sergey. I would like to turn the floor to our next speaker. And it's the first Deputy Director for the Strategic and Inter-Regional Research with the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Mr. Akramjon Nimyatov, who is also a traditional speaker here. He has just returned from Astana, where he participated in similar informal and very productive discussion. Very many ideas, good ideas were voiced there, and I would like him to share those ideas with us today, because they fit into the subject matter of the discussions here, and it is in line with the policy of strengthening our national interests. So you're welcome. Good afternoon, dear participants. Thank you very much, Sergey, for the opportunity to speak here. It's my third time here at the Primakov readings, and it's the second time I speak at the panel where you moderate. I'm very grateful to the leadership of the IMOMO Institute for Academician Dinkin to participate in this brainstorm, as it was put here. For us, Eurasia is, of course, is some surrounding space, and we believe to be an integral part of Eurasia. So for us, the maintenance of stability and security in Eurasian space, in the Eurasian territory, is the imperative for the foreign policy. And all efforts of our leadership are subordinated to the implementation of the task. Sergey can confirm that over the past 7 years, we have significantly intensified our policy in Eurasian integration processes, and we are proactive in the SCO or Eurasian European Economic Union. For the past 7 years, we put forward about 180 initiatives. The idea behind them is that we need to be proactive in our multinational, multilateral cooperation. The key to overcome the challenges we are faced with is to ensure stability and sustainability in Eurasia. That is the engagement of the potential of Eurasia to the full, which is really great. And we have to use our resources which we possess. In this context, I would like to specify some of the initiatives which Uzbekistan promotes in Eurasian platforms and venues. And that is the launch of a new multilateral economic dialogue with the objective to shape in Eurasia common Eurasia high capacity market with high level of import replacement and with technological development, so that we on our own could provide us with all necessary things and ensure our economic sovereignty. And first of all, we stand for the development of the economic cooperation. We believe we have the competitive edge in Eurasia, and our economies could be complementary, and with that we could build very stable and productive supply chains. And it is in the times when traditional supply chains are threatened, when in fact the production facilities are being moved to nearby regions, and the protectionism has become unprecedented and parallel when there are attempts to divert us from technologies, and because of that, the only objective is to ensure our own technological sovereignty. We have resources, and in this sense, Uzbekistan has always been standing for the development of production and technological cooperation. Last year, at the Economic CIS Council, on the initiative of Uzbekistan, a program of economic and industrial cooperation was approved. We put forward the same initiative in the SCO, and a program was adopted to provide incentives for that. So the objective is to shape the market which would be self-sufficient and with very good level of import replacement, and that would enable us to switch to more security. The other matter has to do with transportation links. It's extremely important for Uzbekistan, the country which is double-locked, and goods have to cross two borders before they can be delivered to seaports. So in every venue, we promote the idea of an integrated system of transport networks. And it's good that recently we've been supported by Eurasian countries, particularly in Russia, and it is the idea of building the transport corridor from the Central Asia to Southern Asia via the territory of Afghanistan, and the establishment of that corridor will serve serve as a backbone for transportation in Asia, and they will open access to great markets of Asia with 2 billion of populations, fastly growing markets. It's not only the matter of sustainable development, but also that of security. And in Eurasia, it's very important to develop this system of multi-corridor transportation. The more transport corridors we have, the more chances we will have for the sustainable development. So today, I think we have all the prerequisites for that, particularly in the Central Asia region, which I represent. In fact, we are already implementing the potential, ensuring the transformation of the Central Asia space to become the core of the transportation networks. And thanks to the regional consolidation and political dialogue, good neighborhood, the region has become more stable, and the atmosphere of mutual trust is maintained, and mutual beneficial cooperation. And we managed to avoid transforming the region into the area of rivalry. We have the inflow of investments over the past 7 years, thanks to the good neighborhood policy. We managed to increase the regional GDP by nearly 30%. More investments are coming into the region, and the cumulative investments compared with 2010 has grown 10 times, reaching the figure of 300 billion. Over the past year, we are attracting a lot of investments. So last year, nearly 50 billion of investments were attracted.
And it was noted the high economic growth rate, the middle world rate was 1% lower than ours. We have rather good perspectives, and region today. I like today the words of Alexey Vladimirovich Averchuk, becomes from Middle Asia to the Central Asia. It's like the point of gathering of the whole Eurasia. So it facilitates of combining Eurasia, and today is very important to promote stability and economic stability in the region. It's very important for the region to be open for the cooperation, and beneficiaries of such approach is all our Eurasian society. We all understand this responsibility which we have for the Eurasia being an integral part of this region. And of course, in this context, the priority for us is cooperation with Russia as a key power of Eurasia. And today here the experts are sitting, and we all know the results of Mr. Putin's visit, and the results of his visit. There are $45 billion are the results of his visits, billions of dollars which were the sum of the concluded agreements. So, and now we are forming the added value. And in the structure of our goods exchange, which is increasing constantly, 70% is already with the added the added value. So that will be the base for all the Eurasian countries' partnership. That's the thesis which I want to conclude with my speech. We need to pay attention to our self-sufficiency, to the internal resilience, to be able to confront the external challenges with which we will face. Thanks a lot. Dear colleagues, with the next speaker, we already talked before the beginning of this session. Artem Malagin, who is the Vice Director for the Development of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Institute for Foreign Relations. He plays a great role in the forming of our policy in the framework, at least CIS. I think hundreds of thousands of students from different CIS countries are educated in this institute, and moreover this institute has many branches in these countries, and he's responsible for the work of these branches in the countries. But I think he will explain by himself everything. So thanks a lot. I think it's already a good evening, dear friends. It's very pleasant to listen to the person where the economic dynamics defines the spirit of speech, and I hope I will continue to follow this spirit. Indeed, Eurasia now is a political region, is not the same as geographical. And now we can see from one side it's one kind of migration from European part, because it's obvious that there is military non-stability, or it is in a lot of military non-stability. The majority part of European part of this continent in the Caucasus area develops not bad, not good, according to its internal logic, rather dynamic over the past few years, and big Eurasia is concentrated as a cell in a more and more unique, unified tool, which is connected by a few dimensions: Northeast Asia, East Asia. I would not be very optimistic here. I would be distant. I would put a distant, for example, South East Asia. I would distance such countries as Iran. I think less involved in other organizations, Turkey, and of course big Eurasia is not euphemism for post-Soviet space, which was used rather long time. Big Eurasia is that space which has moved towards China, that space which in real, if we talk about the historic parallels, can remind the situation, the second part of 19th or the age between 19th and 20th centuries, whereas the trans-border situation when it comes from Russia till India, capturing countries which are on their way, and of course these countries are self-sufficient and very significant actors. And the space which I would like to underline politically is polycultural and polylanguageal. You can see that it was always the same, but if we are talking about the big Eurasian space as a synonym of CIS, it was monocultural, it was monolanguageal in a political approach. We understand that now China is involved in another way. SCO, BRICS were considered as second priority structures for the post-Soviet space, but today exactly that structures, their configuration and their participants are facing this big Eurasian space. It is that space where there are a lot of open entrances or IT society talks plugins. And Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, these are those countries which are such plugins which cannot be mentioned with their self-sufficient, sovereign and close cooperation with other parties of the world, which for understandable reasons are not very accessible for Russia. If we look at China, we can see that China is a plugin by itself, which attracts a lot of a big volume of relations from Atlantic space, from Pacific area. And maybe someone will think as it is paradoxical, but we have the new stage of openness of big Eurasia and a big stage of new tendencies and new drivers input into the development, because the old development ties were broken down by pandemic, and it was the beginning and the end of this breakdown was the situation of the 2022 start of the year. When we talk about the big Eurasian space, we need, as I believe, to start from the fact that it is a space where there was never and maybe never will be some kind of unique coordination center. Some regions, there are in the world some regions like this, maybe it's not good, maybe it's not bad, but this competence with understanding that we have some objective community, it's a big feature of Eurasia. When we talk about Russia, a big Eurasia is that space when we, despite all short-term, long-term reasons we can characterize with a look at the West countries. We can define the vectors of development considering non-ease balance of powers and where we do not have an objective advantage. Maybe only one is a close proximity to some neighbors and deepen proximity of the neighbors to us. It is very important, first of all, in the relationships with our friends, allies, friendly countries, as Mr. Ushakov told us, as he used such kind of soft but complementary word for Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and other post-Soviet Middle Asia countries. It's very great to note that in Central Asia now we can, I can underline here that some states have an objective tandem, not because they agreed, but because they have rather similar economic approaches and political approach. I talk about two leaders in Central Asia, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. When regions have not one but two engines, for example, if they can work simultaneously, that means this region or sub-region, if we talk about the big Eurasia, will be more dynamic than it could be if there will be less power forces. Transport, logistic routes, energy routes, they create a unified network of this region. If maybe not few years, maybe a few decades of years. Some routes were seemed as competent, hard to be fixed for the environment which we had after the Soviet Union breakdown. Now we can see it is like the structures which will be the base for the future. For example, One Belt, One Road initiative. You can remember how we behave ourselves for some third parties previously, when we used Big Eurasia as a synonym for the post-Soviet space. Adoption of such realities should become also in external politics of Russia. Of course, adaptation period is rather slow, and I can agree with my colleague Panina. She underlined the necessity of humanitarian tools. These mechanisms should be aimed not only to preserve something, because we have preserved something, we have lost something, but to understand the new actors of this big Eurasian space. It's obvious that in Russia and some neighboring countries there is no such close historic deep understanding of China as, for example, we have understanding of Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan. It's obvious that we don't have such understanding, and of course it shouldn't, and our colleagues from India should not be offended, because we don't have such a big understanding of that bigger part. And I think we will find this understanding. I'm coming to my end. I had almost 6 minutes, but for the last person, it's easier to speak because he can become he can make his speech shorter. So this process should be involved into the studying of big Eurasian space, and this space now is only started to be learned. So thanks a lot, Artem Vladimirovich. The topic is so bright. We can talk, of course, a lot about it. I can talk for many hours about this topic. Just to conclude, I would like to thank all the speakers for your assessments, for your proposals. I'm very pleased with the fact that all speakers were talking about necessity to strengthen that Eurasian partnership cooperation, about the development of Eurasia. Nobody told that it is destructive or non-real. Everything is real. It is difficult for sure. And in this relation, I can name 2 interesting interviews today in a Russian newspaper. The president of IMMO, Mr. Dinkin, where he also paid attention to the topic of the big Eurasian partnership, and director of IMMO in his interview to Interfax newspaper 2 days ago. I can quote: Eurasia is a big and in different ways political, economic difficulties, which are connected with attempts to find points of contact, cooperation, and so on. And at the same time, he defines the aim which we have, the aim for the supporters of cooperation. It is the way how Russian Federation sees the future of the big Eurasian space and the other CIS countries. We see the future of Eurasia from the point of view of the creation of unique security space, inclusive, based on interest balance between different countries. These principles, as I believe, on which we as CIS countries want to create and to develop our relationship. They are real, they are equal, and they are rather different from the principles on which the Western alliances are based on. I'm talking about NATO, European Union. What kind of pressure is given now, for example, on Hungary, Slovakia in European Union, and what kind of pressure from the United States to his European counterparts? It's a significant difference from our strivings in Eurasian continent and the desires to which we evident on the space of so-called collective West. I want to thank one more time all the participants for presence in our discussion. I cannot stop. I would like to thank Kramzon Ilhomovich for his interview to our Russian newspaper, where he gives a high assessment to CIS, and it's very remarkable. He told CIS is a structure when parties want to cooperate on a principle of the sovereign equality of the states on the base of mutual respect and trust. And I totally agree that this principles realization will help to strengthen the cooperation and interaction in the Eurasian partnership to the interest of every actor of this big Eurasian partnership. Here are the representatives of India, Chinese People's Republic, and other countries of Eurasian space. I'm optimist, and I'm looking to the future with a hope that all our plans on strengthening of cooperation will be realized. Thanks a lot to everyone one more time. Have a good time and success.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, сессия 4. Полицентричный ядерный мир. Риски без контроля. Начнется через 15 минут. Приглашаем вас на кофе-брейк.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, Panel 4, Polycentric Nuclear Order, Risks Uncontrolled, begins in 15 minutes. Please welcome to the coffee break.